Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on today's show we're going to be going through the 4-1 win against Leicester. That immaculate home record continues. Brentford were up to 7th yesterday. I'm not sure where we are now. I need to look at the table. We're going to do that in a little bit. Craig, how are we doing, mate?
Over the moon. Absolutely buzzing. We just need to start turning these away games into some points as well. And let's start on Wednesday.
100%. Dan, all good?
Yeah, all good. We're still joint 7th. We've dropped to 8th because Tottenham got a draw. But yeah, we're still right up there. It's great. Great to know.
Callum, all good?
All good, but Potter didn't score. So there you go.
But we won by 3. You was right. We won by 3.
A full intro from Craig's dad as I was going to the club shop yesterday, and he was like, 3-0, Callum, 3-0. I was like, yes, 3-0. It's going to be 3-0. And
let's address that actually. Let's address that early on, shall we? It was about 2:45, so about 15 minutes to kick off, and Callum's walking away from the ground to the club shop.
I was that nervous yesterday. I had to go to the club shop first and just check out the bargains, for which I walked straight back. So yeah, nothing yesterday, but hey ho, never mind. Up the bees.
What would you be getting from the club shop, Callum?
I just like go and get the tracksuits, get the shirts. They're selling a load of stuff off at the moment. So, usually when you see me at a Brentford game on a Saturday, there's about 4 or 5 different tracksuit tops I'm wearing because it's that time of the year. I'm a bit chilly. I think at one point last season, I had 6 shirts on, all Brentford related from different seasons. So, if you want to come and find a retro fan who's got stuff from many, many seasons at Brentford Football Club, I'm your man at the back of Ealing Road. Or not Ealing Road. What am I talking about?
He must look massive.
I've had a long day.
Honestly, like Michelin man. Just look for the Michelin man in about 6 coats, 2 jumpers, 3
one
shirts.
here. Hang on, look, we've got a classic one here. In fact, let's see what I can find here. Right,
YouTube exclusives, Callum. Whilst you're looking for things, doesn't make for great audio content.
Look at this. Look at this classic here. Beautiful. One of
Callum, for those not watching this, can you describe the shirt that you're holding up for them?
This is the 2000. I think this is the 2003, 2004. I think Andy Scott wore this many, many years ago. He might be able to correct me on that one. But yeah, beautiful shirt. And my favourite one out of the lot, I'll tell you, let's put that down here. We've got, this is going well off piste, I'll tell you. This is my favourite. This is the 2004, 2005 home shirt under the main man, Martin Allen, Dion Burton and co. What a team. By the way, if anyone's got that away shirt, I am actually looking for that beautiful yellow and blue one. So, if anyone would like to, go to a very good home. So, please do let me know. Please do let me know. I've got plenty more, boys. I'll tell you, I've got a story about one I picked up the other week from a random fella. So, we'll leave that for another day. But yeah.
Never mind the Leicester game.
Yeah.
Adam's straight with you.
We're not said a word. Come on, let's crack on. Tweet of the week this week. I found one that went pretty viral on Twitter from Ryan, I believe his name is, before the game started.
Oh, Ryan Zaldo, yeah.
Yeah, he tweeted out to say Schade over Carvalho is crazy. That was quite funny. I saw it went viral.
The thing is with that, before the game started, you wouldn't have no one would have doubted what he said. But afterwards, it's the best jinx from Zudo that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. We will touch upon this later, but I it was a tactical genius. But we won't talk about that just yet. We'll talk about it later. So I have a tendency to do that on this podcast. So
one week we should just let Callum host it. Just let Callum be the presenter one week.
Well, the problem is none of us would get a word in edgewise.
You've got to get it in before the Wi-Fi drops.
45 minutes.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Let's get on before the Wi-Fi drops. That's a good point.
100%. Another good tweet this time from the Sportsman. Most points won at home is Brentford this season. Most goals scored at home is 22. That's a league high and a Europe high. Top 5 leagues we've scored the most goals. 4 consecutive top flight home wins for the first time in Brentford's history. Dan, we are a different animal. I remember I put a message in the chat about halfway through the first half when we got back on level terms. And I think just before we might have got our third, maybe just before the break. But we are a completely different team at home. At least it seems like.
Yeah, it's difficult to say when you look at who we've played. And I know we keep saying this, but we have played the worst teams in the league at home, and we've played all of them And I think, of course, you're going to look better going forward. Of course, you're going to be controlling those games more because, especially the promoted teams, they're full of championship players, really, who are just trying to step up, not as established as we are now, and that's where we've got to in our progression. So I think maybe we'll need to review that maybe more towards the end of the season when we've played some of the top teams at home as well and see how we fare there, because, I mean, most teams' home record is better than their away record, but I think it is skewed a bit more just by who we played as well.
I do think, though, because we are going to talk about Leicester sort of specifically, I do think, though, as someone who has watched, and I've not been at I've been at one home game this season, I've been to all the aways, but someone that's watching, I do feel like when I've been watching, even the football that we play, and I don't know if it's just because I'm watching on a TV and you can see more of the game, but even the football I think we played, we do look a lot more fluid at home for some reason. I don't know, even in the good spells against the better teams, I don't think we've looked as good as the good spells against the bad teams, which is obvious to say, but there seems to be a little bit more zip.
Though, isn't it? It's just easier against teams that we might be technically better than. If we're technically better than a team, then it's easier to exert control. You get more moments in the final third, whereas away against some of the big six teams, Brian, for example, might only get one or two, realistic potential chances in those games. And then we say he's had an off day and he's gone a bit missing. But at home in these games, when we're controlling it, we get him on the ball so much more. And even if he does waste a few, he's on the ball so much that he's bound to get on the end of some goal mouth action at some point.
That nutmeg that he did as well. I can't remember who it was against, but there was I think the Premier League made a little snippet of it as well and posted it, or Brentford did. Yeah, takes a touch, rolls it forward, pops it through his legs, and off he goes. It was brilliant. Go on, Craig. All I was going to say was he was a lot better in the second half, I thought, than he was in the first half, and I'm sure we'll speak about him a little bit more. But that nutmeg snippet was really good.
I think Sepp got a nutmeg in the first half as well. That was like
against that little fart bag that scored. Bonanotte, the one that shushed.
Yeah.
Well, he got nutmeg twice. He got like nutmeg twice.
That was, by the way, may I say, honestly.
Talk about premature, eh?
If you follow me on Instagram, I had a few words to say about it on my Instagram page. I wish someone had just gone and if we had Neil Maupay in the team, then I think he would have gone and replicated that. But hey ho. But it's
we wouldn't have won 4-1 if we had Neil Maupay in the team, unfortunately.
We would have 5-1, great. But
7 because he just scored a hat trick on top.
Let's talk about the game, boys. I'll go around the room. Craig, Callum, I'll come to you first because you haven't spoken about the game yet. You've spoken a lot about shirts, and then we'll go to Craig. Callum, initial thoughts from the game.
I mean, it was a bit of a sucker punch when they scored. We got off to a very fast start as we always do. But I had full belief in the team. I knew we would turn it around very, very quickly, and we did. I must say, Damsgaard, yet again, what a fantastic performance he put in. That he was the one who started the move for that first goal. A fantastic ball through to Schade. And a fantastic ball from Schade over to Wissa, who was surprisingly quiet actually on Saturday. I thought, actually, to be honest, but fantastic. And when they went down to 10 men for that brief period, I said to a few people around me, I said, we've got to utilise this. There's already gaps in the middle of the park, even with them playing 11. But we utilised it very, very well. Lewis Potter was running rings around them, and what a move to go 2-1 up as well. And then obviously we went on from there. So very, very happy all round. Didn't get the 3-0, didn't get Lewis Potter scoring, but we got 4 goals. So that is fantastic.
Craig?
I thought actually this one might be a little bit of a sticky one for us because that's actually the first time we've beaten Leicester in the Premier League. So I think we played them. That might be the 8th time we've played them. Would that be the 8th time?
We've drawn against.
No, they got relegated, didn't they? No.
Yeah, we've drawn against them and lost against them previously. As you rightfully say.
I was thinking about the cup games that we had as well, because there was one at Griffin Park and there was one at the G-Tech when they beat us, wasn't there? But that's the first time we've beaten them in the Premier League, and they're always a little bit of a sticky team that we come across. So I was a bit wary going into the game, thinking, I hope this isn't that one that we stumble on. But like you said, Callum, we started really, really fast. And by the time that they got their first goal, we could have had 1 or 2 ourselves. We just wasn't clinical enough in front of goal. And I need to obviously you need to throw a little bit of doubt into something so positive, don't you? It's still concerning that it takes going a goal down for us to decide that we are clinical enough. Like, because what switched? You know what I mean? Something just clicked, and all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, we're 2-1 up. It just kind of come out of nowhere. So we need to be clinical to get ourselves in front of teams. We can't keep going behind, because when we play teams like when we did with it has to be an away game, doesn't it? Like when we went when we score so early against Spurs and City, and those are difficult ones. But Fulham, for example, we go ahead, and then that shambles of a finish of the game. It worries me that we're not being able to see games out when we go ahead.
Yeah.
First, it kind of takes us to go behind to then wake up and then score. But I mean, if we don't keep a clean sheet all season, but we win every game 4-1, I'm not going to complain.
Exactly.
I will, because I've got Fleck in my fantasy team. So,
we ain't kept a clean sheet in all season. That just makes you an idiot.
No, we have Everton. Come on. Don't be silly.
Oh, sorry. 1 clean sheet. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I had full belief. I mean, I looked at it on the train when I was going up, and I looked at their back line, and I knew they were going to play very defensive from the start, playing Connor Cody, who I don't believe has played a single minute in the Premier League this season, or very, very little in any fact. And they just looked so disjointed at the back, Leicester. Even playing a 5, they were dreadful. And we didn't even get out of second gear. I don't even think we got out of first gear. If we really bothered, there was 6-7 on the table there yesterday. And that shouldn't be happening with a Leicester City team. And I seriously think people question what I was saying yesterday. I think they are big, big contenders to go down. We have played better teams than that this season. And Rude's got a big, big job on his hand to turn that around. But if they play like that the rest of the season, they're going back down. So, but
who's
that
questioning you on that shout, Callum?
Who was questioning me? A few at the back. I said a few at the back in the West Stand. I was like, look, they're a team who have some very good players in that squad, and they just simply didn't. I don't know what was wrong with them yesterday. I mean, I've always rated players like Patson Daka coming off the bench, those kind of players. You got Vardy. He's still scoring goals. And they just looked so disjointed yesterday. I don't know if something is going on behind the scenes. Obviously the owner now as well. He's been around for quite a while. Obviously, his dad was previously involved with the club before obviously what happened. So I don't know whether they need Rude will change things. It's very hard to tell, but they look dreadful. But hey ho. Interesting week ahead with some games coming up, thick and fast. So we'll see.
Mike, your pod that you did, the preview that you did, sorry, the chap that you spoke to, he said that when they got relegated, they sleepwalked into relegation and listed obviously a number of players in that team. And Callum, you've just done the same thing. You've listed off a number of players within that Leicester team, but it seems like again they're sleepwalking into relegation, or at least themselves into a troublesome spot here.
Yeah,
they're thinking they're too good to go down. That's the problem.
They're not nearly
on all those good players. Vardy, they went down with all those players to come back up.
James Maddison was in there as well.
Yeah.
Dick.
Dan, I'll come to you. I think we'll go through it goal by goal because we haven't really got to much of the match action yet. First of all, I just want to say I think that might be the save of the season from Mads Hermansen to deny Schade what would have been the first of 4. But I mean, that was just an incredible. I've watched that save back a few times. The fact that he gets there and gets a big strong hand to it, and he's quite far off his line as well, is incredible. But I said to you boys when we conceded the first, Dan, as Pinnock, is that really bad defending, or is that just really clever from Jamie Vardy? Because it's not the first time it's happened to Pinnock this season. We've had loads of conversations about it, but I don't think Pinnock of a couple of seasons ago maybe gets that wrong. However, Jamie Vardy, even at 37, I think he is now, is still probably, up there with the better strikers in the league.
Yeah, he's still probably Leicester's biggest threat at his age, which perhaps shows how far their team has declined the rest of them. It definitely looked very messy, especially as he got in and Buonanotte was just free and was able to tap into an empty net. Fleckham was like caught between as well. Yeah, he probably should have done better. He probably should have had more authority back there. It was a really big shame to concede at that point in the game because, like you said, we did have chances. Schade, did everything right with the header. Could easily have scored. So even before Leicester scored, we were the better team, and it came completely against a run of play. And you were thinking, typical, how have we let them get the lead here? Because we were pretty good throughout the game, and yeah, that was the only negative point, and we reacted well to it, to be fair. But yeah, perhaps Pinnock should be doing a little bit better.
Yeah, Craig, I'll hand over to you for some Damsgaard love because he sets up where he gets the pre-assist if we're counting pre-assists, but he gets he sets up the move for Schade to go. I think for me, I mentioned it in my YouTube video, but I think Wissa's positioning this season has been class, especially like he's just so good at getting in between centre backs and kind of timing his runs to perfection. But Damsgaard, Craig, another, like, he had a hand in half of the goals and he was just incredible again.
I think that if Nathan Collins wasn't having such a good season as well, because I hope that we speak about him as well, because I thought he was fantastic yesterday, and what a pass for the fourth one, which we can talk about. But Damsgaard's easily our player of the season. He's been fantastic. Maybe bar one game, and that was probably the Fulham game where everyone was a bit off of it as well. He's the Christian Eriksen replacement that we kind of needed when Eriksen was here and he stepped in. Everyone sort of raised the levels of their game a bit. And he's doing exactly everything that Christian Eriksen done when he was with us as well. And unfortunately, it's taken to this season for him to get to this season for it to kickstart. But he's easily our player of the season so far. He's doing things that we kind of expected him to do when we first signed him. Because, all right, yeah, he had a bit of hype around him because of the Euros and things like that. But we all know the injuries that he had, and it never really kick-started. But if he carries on and plays the way that he is playing, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he might be on 6 or 7 assists already for the season.
Yeah.
So he could be on 6 or 7 assists already for the season. He will be in double digits. He will finish in double digits for assists for this season. And the movement of Wissa, Schade, KLP, Brian, Thiago, when they came on, all he has to do is he find one of them, and he done it brilliantly on yesterday. Did it brilliantly yesterday. And what a pass for Schade's second goal.
Yeah, I know. I think the second goal, I think it's so nice because we have scored some nice goals this season, especially like sort of building from quite deep in our half and kind of going towards the other end of the pitch very quickly. KLP is really good at that. And to see him with Brian and Schade all combining for that second goal, it was kind of a vindication because obviously I saw Thomas Frank's post-match interview and he said, we started with 4 attackers on the wing, 5 if you count Damsgaard and the 10 as that like kind of forward player. But we had all 4 of those players on the pitch. So it was a really attacking lineup from Thomas Frank, Callum. And Schade gets the goal. He kind of scuffs it in, but I think you just kind of I saw people talking about the celebrations on Twitter and how as soon as he scores, he's got a big smile on his face. Jensen's lifting him up in the air. All the players are swarming him. It was a long time coming for Kevin Schade, and we've been saying on this podcast for weeks that he just needs one. He really just needs one. He's got 3 in one day, Callum. And talk me through the second goal, his first of the hat trick.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a bit of luck, wasn't it? We're talking about his first goal. Sorry.
Yeah, the scuffed one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we got lucky. Obviously, there was a little deflection for one of the Leicester defenders that kind of fell into his path. But look, I think that scuff actually kind of helped it go into the back of the net because it had that little awkward bounce, that kind of whether it misfooted the goalkeeper, I'm not too sure. But no, he put the ball away. He put the ball away, and that's all you need sometimes. And then he kicked on from there. The second one, was slightly a missed touch, to be honest with you, wasn't it? I think, to be honest, but I think that put it onto his left foot. But look, I'm so pleased for him because he has the potential. We've seen this potential from Kevin Schade, but he does it in bits and parts across the season, and you want to see him do it more and more and more. And hopefully now this is something that will allow him to kick on and allow him to go and score freely and give him that confidence he needs. And you saw after the third goal, as you say, Mike, you've got all the players coming around him, smiling, giving him pats on the back. Thiago lifting him up on the air. He doesn't really celebrate goals very much, I don't think. But, you could see, I think, the relief, if anything. I think he's quite a quiet one in the camp. I got the gist of that. At the end of the game, everyone was pushing him forward for the 4th design. We changed it for Schade yesterday. And he seems like a quiet one. He doesn't like the attention on him, which is fair enough. I don't mind that. Just go and score goals. That's all I say. But but no, I'm glad for him. I'm really glad for him, Mike. But yeah, another 3 goals on Wednesday, and then another 3 next week as well, and then we'll be happy. So yeah.
I think there's a stat. It's maybe not a great stat for him, but this could be a kick on for him now. But I think he scored more goals yesterday than he did in his previous 41 games.
Well, there we go. Hey, there we go. No, I think he's got potential. I don't think we would have signed him, but yeah, we just need him to do it more often, and then he's putting these one-on-ones away as well, which was good because he really struggled with that. I thought Sheffield Wednesday in particular, he got a bit lucky with his goal, didn't he? But looked a different player yesterday, but he now needs to kick on and do it again. So fingers crossed he will.
You're kind of just hoping, Dan, that, if there's ever a sign that the confidence was flowing through you, that finish, especially for the one just before half time, to get it over the keeper in off the post. The Schade that we've seen so far this season probably wouldn't even be on the end of the pass. It's a fantastic pass, by the way, from Damsgaard. His kind of awareness in and around the box is brilliant. But you almost when he went through on goal after scoring 2 in the first half, in the second half, I'm talking about, you almost kind of expected him to score, which is something that we've never been able to say really about Kevin Schade. So you're kind of hoping, Dan, that he now uses this to kick on. The only thing I'm thinking though, and I said it at the end of my video that I did last week about Kevin Schade, is that with Thiago coming back, I'm not really sure where he fits into the team. Having said that, he fit into the team yesterday. He's probably a little bit further down the pecking order, but for the Villa game, for example, you can't drop someone after scoring a hat-trick. So where do you see Schade's season going from here, Dan?
He's got to use his confidence and he's got to keep it up. I was pleased for him when he got the assists. It was a great cross pinpoint to Wissa. It was nice to see him playing on the left in his best position. There's less pressure on him necessarily being the one down the middle to get on the end of all the chances, which you would expect from maybe someone like Wissa. He's in his natural position. You're right. I said that he wouldn't get the 3rd if it wasn't for the confidence taken from the first 2. It was such a calm finish. It was great. The second one, slight dink on it. Again, I thought his first touch took it away from the goal. It made it a harder finish, but he got there. But yeah, now it's about pushing on. I think he has deserved to stay in the team. I think it gives Thomas Frank an interesting problem because I don't know if he would want the same number of attackers on the pitch away at Villa as at home against Leicester. And I can't see him dropping Mbeumo and Wissa. So he's got something quite big to think about now. But it's just so great to have so many options. I thought Carvalho looked great when he came on. We've got Thiago obviously on the bench. KLP eventually, when we get a left back, might be freed up to move further up the field. So it's just nice to talk about a Brentford team with 5 or 6 great attacking options, all of who on their day can really have an impact on winning a game. And obviously the ones that are on the bench, if we're losing a game, get them on, and there's every chance we can turn a game around. And I don't remember, especially in the Premier League years, us having so many attacking options that we can call upon, and they're all slightly different players. You think of Wissa and Thiago up front, completely different strikers, but both have their uses against particular scenarios.
That statement worries me because people were saying this at Liverpool when we had so many options on the bench, and then 2 or 3 weeks later we had nothing. So I really hope that these options stay injury free. Let's just say that, because
it might happen, but every transfer window we're building on.
I agree with you, Dan. I think I'm excited to see what we've got coming off the bench. I mean, Thiago yesterday he looks a serious threat. As a defender, you would be panicking with someone of his stature. He is he's strong, he's direct, tall, he wins headers. As a defender, I will know what to do with him. And you've got that kind of player who is going to be coming off the bench. I mean, fantastic for us, but we just need to keep them fit. But we'll be interested to see how he rotates. I actually think he may stick with the same team, apart from Jensen, obviously with his injury. Looks like a tight hamstring. It was a precaution, apparently. Thomas Frank said today, but they're going to assess him. I think it was either today or tomorrow. But I don't see a reason why we don't play the same team at Villa, because look, they're not on good form at the moment in the Premier League, and their main goalkeeper is now injured. So there we go. We scored 3 last season. We're going to score 4 this season. Job done.
As long as we don't concede 4, then I'm happy.
I know.
We haven't had a 4-4 for a while, I don't think, have we? So
No, we haven't. I was just about to say the games when we played against Villa have always been pretty good games, whether that's a bit of needle or some goals, or being 3-0 down before I even got to the game one year, which was fantastic.
The first 10 minutes, yeah. Keep watching.
That was horrible. That game.
But they've always been good games. But like, I know what you mean, Dan. You're saying maybe he doesn't want as many attackers on the pitch for Villa as we did have against Leicester, but you can't drop Schade after a hat trick. Because we've spoken about him being a confidence player, and you can see even they've started putting these little videos out of Thomas Frank giving speech in the dressing room afterwards, which I fucking love, and I hope they keep doing that because it's great insight. But even in the dressing room, he still seems a bit down with himself somehow. I just feel like if you took him out of the team, and even if you said, maybe we're resting you for Newcastle and we think we can hurt someone like Dan Burn or one of their fullbacks or Livramento, whoever it is, I do think it might I don't know. I don't see how he can change it for Villa. I'm not sure.
Well, if Jensen's injured, it kind of makes it easy for him, because I think he'll want Yanelt back in for this one. If Jensen's injured, it's easy just to switch him off. But I mean, if Jensen's fit, I think I'd want him in, because him and Damsgaard are actually very different players, and I think they work so well together. Jensen from deep with those long diagonals, being calm on the ball, especially playing out from the back. I think he's so helpful to have there with Damsgaard. And then it's obviously who do you drop? Do you want that extra man in the middle? Because when Damsgaard has kind of been on the left, he's drifted in the middle. If you have Schade there, then you don't really have that extra man in the middle, because Schade will, his strengths are running in behind and not really contributing much to the build-up.
For sure. I think I want to, just before we park the Leicester chat, I'm going to bring in Miranda, who's just joined us. Hello, Miranda. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good.
Yeah.
Hope you're all good.
We were just talking about some standout players. We've spoken about Damsgaard. We've spoken about Schade. Who else did you think had a good game? I thought the cameos were really good. You mentioned Thiago Callum. We've spoken a little bit about Fabio. Anyone else super impressive? I thought Sepp had a good game, personally. Quietly.
Yeah, definitely. Sepp, quietly. I thought that same as, if you're thinking quietly, Brian, I think, had a better game in the background. But KLP, for me, was a standout. They were giving him lots of praise on Sky Sports as well, about his positioning in the left back position. So I thought he was brilliant. He's been so consistent for us recently as well. So yeah, for me, that's a person who would stand out.
How much can we take from it, Miranda? Because we kind of mentioned at the top of the show that Leicester were pretty dog shit, and they're probably the worst team that we've played this season. And it's I've got written down in front of me that I actually don't think we're too far away, but I don't know if I'm being an idiot. And Dan and I love to get carried away to say Europe one week, and then we look like we can get them relegated the next week. How much can we take from it? It's weird because we're kind of waiting for these games, especially it's like the Villa game and the Newcastle game as the two up next. You're kind of looking at those, and you're like, in the same way that we did for Fulham, it's kind of a measure about where we are. But we have looked really good at home in most games, bar maybe West Ham. But even in that game, I thought we were the better team and probably should have got the points. How much can we take from these games at home, Miranda?
Like you've already touched upon, we are so consistently good at home. Like even just yesterday, there was a point in the game where I just felt comfortable. Yep, we've got this, we've won this, great, cool. That's how you want it to feel away. I think that especially being a midweek game, I might be wrong. I know we've had Monday night game with Fulham, but we haven't, there's obviously not been that many midweek games. I think those away from home are a bigger test when you've got all those closer games together. Then to whatever happens on Wednesday, to then bounce back to another home game, I think it will be a big test against those particular teams. You might have already touched upon this, and I think you put this in the chat, Dan, about we've beaten the teams who are in the bottom 8. So
the only points we've gained all season are against the bottom 8 teams. So every single point, draws and wins, are all against the current bottom 8.
Yeah, so I think it will be a big test, but there's still a long way to go. I still can't add up in my head how we are so comfortably confident at home, but it doesn't replicate in an away game. I still can't work that out. But then if you look at the away games from the summer at the start of the season, we should have got more from those games. We know that from the performances. So we know it's there. It's just that final product, which is replicating what happens at home. So it's just a cycle, I think. I don't know.
Craig, how far away are we, do you think? Are we a couple of fullbacks away?
Oh, gosh, haven't we been saying that all bloody season? Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's probably where we are, really, isn't it? A couple of fullbacks away. I mean, when you think about Villa away last season, it kind of actually spun on Reguilon, which was the fullback getting higher. And do you know what? Actually, KLP has been a godsend at left back, by the way. Absolute godsend. And he kind of, although he's not left-footed, he brings a bit of balance to the back four, because maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here and it's totally different. But it's having someone with an extra bit of pace in defence, like what Rico brings. Someone with an extra bit of pace in defence that can sit a little bit deeper when we got set pieces and do the covering work that Rico done. But to have someone with a little bit of pace brings a bit more security into the defence, because he can cover so much more ground than those around him as well. I don't really know how I can call this one this week. They're not on the greatest run of form, let's be honest. So it's probably a really good time to play them, actually. And like Callum said, if Emi Martinez is injured, it probably is the best time to play them. Sorry, but yeah, man, it's not just this week. We're not just a couple of fullbacks away from this week. We've been a couple of fullbacks away in every bloody away game this season, not just this one.
Dan, how far away are we?
Well, we've got the 9th and 10th bottom teams next, so one team at a time. We'll be working our way up the table. I think at the moment you've got to say we're just slightly below the very best teams and above the bottom teams, because that's the reality of what we've done. In terms of the fullbacks, I think KLP on the left has been brilliant, but you need someone like Van den Berg on the right if you're going to do that, because he is so offensive. He will get down that wing, but at the same time, Van den Berg will be much more reserved on the other side, and it's kind of like a back three as a bit of protection when KLP does go. So I think, although Sepp won't get the plaudits and he won't look, we never really pick him out as like the outstanding player, he is needed on that side to have that, to bring that balance and that defensive solidity, especially when KLP's gone. And obviously having KLP when he is forward, it is just having another attacker in that front four or front five. So the potential is there. It's great to know that we're on 20 points. I think another 5 wins this season, we're probably safe. So we can very likely say that we're not going to be in danger of going down this season. And then all we want is, it's just great to have the hope, and it is great to be looking upwards rather than down. And the whole Premier League, especially in the section we're in, is so tight at the moment. If we do well this week, we're a couple of games. Who knows where we could be next week? But it's Champions League.
Champions League soon ready, everyone. Basically, is what Dan's saying. So we look.
Well, I'm looking at the table now. If if results go away, we could go as high as 4th on Wednesday. Callum.
City are there for the taking.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly. I'm just jealous about. They were talking about it on Sky tonight. Chelsea are off to Kazakhstan in a few weeks. I'll tell you, that's a cracking away day. That is. Can
But that's
imagine
why
that.
that's why we're playing them at 7 o'clock on a Sunday.
I know. That's fucking awful. Awful fixture time. Shall we move on to Villa? We've kind of been sort of mentioning it throughout the show, but Callum, we've said, Brentford do have this habit sometimes of when there's an out of form team, we do like to give them a give me. I'm thinking about the United game at home, the United game away this season, when we all went into the game and said we've got the opportunity to sack Erik ten Hag, and they managed to get the win, and then he got sacked the following week. But Villa are now 5 or 6 games without a win. There's not that much noise about Emery. I can guarantee you if it was Spurs or another kind of one of those teams in the division, there'd be a lot of way more noise. But it has to be said, it looks like maybe the Champions League, that narrative of them having a lot of games this season kind of might be affecting how they're playing in the league. How are you feeling ahead of it on Wednesday?
I'm confident. There's a lot of pressure. On them to go and pick some positive results up. They looked to shadow themselves today, I think, to be honest with you, against Chelsea. I've always enjoyed watching Aston Villa with how, Emery sets the team up. Watkins looks to shadow himself at the moment, but, he likes to bang in a goal or two against Brentford. So, let's just keep him quiet, please. But it's always been a bit of a fiery affair between us and Aston Villa. I don't know what it is in particular. I remember last season, at the home game, whether it was down to a single player, Neil Maupay, I'm not too sure. But it was very, very fiery, that game. And again, at their place, not so much. But there was a good few yellow cards dished around. So, but I'm expecting goals. I would like to say we'll get the win. But I think the first goal is very key. If we can get the first goal and kick on from there and get comfortable, they will get out them, the Aston Villa fans. It's a very passionate, Villa Park. Their fans are, when things are not going their way, they will let the team know. So let's go and frustrate them, which I know they can do, Brentford. But yeah, go and score early doors and then kick on and go and get those 3 points.
Miranda, how big would a win be? I think, we've got the point on the board at Everton. It was a good performance, probably the better team with 10 men. Who knows what would happen in that game if it was stayed at 11v11. Would it, we could go as high as 4th. I don't want to sound so optimistic because I know it's going to bite me in the arse when we get battered. But if we went to Villa Park, it would be a while since we won at Villa Park, first of all, but it would be a win against a team that finished in the Champions League spots last season, against a team that have done quite well in Europe this season. And a lot of people would have backed them to be in the European mix this season as well. With all of that in mind, a win would be huge, wouldn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think that I echo everything that Callum's just said and how we need to start the game, get the atmosphere going. It is a difficult place to go to. And I do think, I think there's something different about a midweek game as well. So I think that would give us that extra boost, especially going into Newcastle, because again, difficult game, changes the prospect of it all. So I think that, I know that we're going to talk about any particular changes. I don't think anything needs to change about the way that Frank approached the game on Saturday. It needs to be that attacking, but I do think that Pinnock, Collins, Van der Berg need to be on their A game, because Villa are able to come at you very quickly, just as we did at the weekend, ironically. Very quickly we turned that round from 1-0 to 1-1 to 2-1. They can do the same thing. So I think that they need to be on their guard. Pinnock cannot have the slip up as he did against Vardy. They won't be as forgiving if those things happen.
No, I don't think so. Craig, just before we wrap, are you confident? Because I weirdly am confident, and I don't know if that's stupid or not.
Do you want me to put you back in your place a little bit, if you want?
Please.
Brentford have never beaten Aston Villa at Villa Park.
Never.
No, when you said that, I did think we've only ever drawn there.
Brentford have never beaten Aston Villa at Villa Park. All of the times we've beaten them, they've been at Griffin Park or the G-Tech. We've never beaten them at Villa Park. So, actually, sod that. Let's go the other way. Why not change a narrative now and go to Villa Park and get 3 points, first 3 points away from home on the board, show them what's what. 3-0. Keem Lewis-Potter's going to score.
Do you know what? If he scores on Wednesday and I'm not there, I'm going to be having kittens. I tell you, I won't be very happy. But no, I hope
Dan,
I hope so. I hope so.
I'm going to ask you the last question, Dan, because we went to Villa last season. We were 2-0 down. We brought it back to 3-2, and then they ended up scoring late on. But I actually thought, especially our response in the second half, we were the better team in the period that when we went and we scored the 3 goals. And probably we edged the second half, I would say. And I didn't think that there was a big gap between the two sides. And we had a shit ton of injuries as well. Bring us out, Dan. Wrap us out. Conclude things.
Well, on that day, I was stood next to Craig, and it didn't look like it was coming until we got the first goal, because we were quite bad to start that game, and the comeback came out of nowhere. I mean, I see this as quite similar to Newcastle, actually. Newcastle are also a big team. On their day, very, very good. On their day will give us a cracking game, and we need to be at very top levels to get a result. But both them and Newcastle are performing a bit below par. And at some point this season, we've got to play them, and there's no better time than now. And there isn't that pressure on our backs of us struggling down the bottom end of the league. There's more pressure on them. So we've got nothing to lose, really. And we've got good problems in terms of who to pick, because there's, probably 12 or 13 players now who you think probably deserve to start. So I do think will come in somehow. But like you said, it's difficult to know who to take out. So they're good problems to have, especially with the games coming thick and fast, because I don't think everyone will be able to play every single game in December. And there's no reason why we can't go there and get something.
100%. Ladies and gents, that was a lovely way to end the podcast. We'll be back after the Newcastle game. I don't think we're going to release a midweek one this week. So we'll either be back for a Newcastle preview or a Newcastle full-time, which will come after the game on Saturday against Eddie Howe's side. There'll also be a video on my channel. The link for that will be in the description of this video coming out this week. And also, just before we go, remember to drop a comment down below with your thoughts ahead of the Villa game, going into the Newcastle game. Does Janelt come back in? Who impressed you on Saturday? Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Follow us on socials at The Ealing Road, on Twitter at Ealing Road Pod, on Instagram. Miranda, Craig, Dan, and Callum, an absolute pleasure as always.
Up the bees.
Up the bees.